Welcome to day 12. As your microservices architecture grows, you run into what they call the terminal spaghetti problem. If you have 5 microservices, a database, an API gateway, message broker, all printing logs to a single terminal, debugging an error is an absolute nightmare. So today we're going to stop reading terminals and, implement centralized logging. And yeah, by the end of the video, every single log from every single container will be streamed into one beautiful and searchable web dashboard. Create a new file at the root of the project, and this file will be called promtail-config.yaml, and then paste the following. So our logging architecture is going to have 3 pieces. Loki is a tool which will store the logs. Grafana will visualize them, and Promtail is the agent that actively gathers them. First, we need to configure Promtail, and then I created a simple YAML file at the root of our project, and I pasted the configuration you're seeing right now. Now we tell Promtail to connect directly to the Docker socket. And this is pure magic. Why? Because it means Promtail will automatically detect every container running in our cluster, grab their consoles, logs, and then attach the container's name as a searchable label and push them to Loki. So yeah, this is good. Let's move on. Next, we're going to add the PLG stack to our infrastructure. We open our Docker compose.yaml file, and then we shall add 3 services. So PLG, P for Promtail, L for Loki, and G for Grafana. So let me close these files, and then in the compose.yaml at the very end, okay, I will paste a number of services. Now, we add Loki on port 3001. So you can see that image name, container, ports, command are usual things by now, which you should be familiar with in Docker. And we add Promtail down here, making sure to mount our configuration file and the Docker socket. Okay, configuration file on line 96 and the Docker socket on line 95. So that it has permissions to read the logs. Okay, as simple as that. And finally, we add Grafana on port 3000. Okay, and because Grafana is highly customizable, we don't even have to write any Python code for it today. Okay, in fact, I don't think in this episode we shall write any Python code. And this setup is responsible for intercepting the standard print statements that we already wrote in our FastAPI services. So you can see that Grafana depends on Loki. Again, in production, make sure that your environment variables are copied or retrieved from your .env file or from the environment variables of the platform that you're hosting your service. And this one is called GF security admin password, which is the default password for the dashboard of Grafana. And then you can see that Promtail also depends on Loki. Yeah, as simple as that. The next step is to bring our cluster online, but to do that, of course, it's already online, but I need to rebuild everything. Okay. Let it stop. Wow, we have a number of containers. I'm just curious how much RAM is going to be used in the end. So I'll do docker compose down and docker compose up minus build, hit enter, and let's be patient for it. So once it boots, I'll hit a few APIs to generate some traffic, and then we can have data to look at. So it says the container name Loki is already in use by container. You have to remove or rename the container to be able to reuse that name. Okay, so let me say container name Loki microservice, just like that. Okay, microservices, then redo, and let's be patient for it. Okay, the same thing happens to Promptail. So I'll say Promptail microservices. Also, I'll do for Grafana microservices. Yeah, some things you learn as you do. That's why they say the best time or best way to learn is by using a project. Wow, this is going crazy. All right, so I think we should be good to go. I need to go to the front end and do a few things. But I saw an application failure somewhere. Okay, look at this. It says application setup failed. All right, so this is something to fix before I continue. No problem. I will just add some basic retry logic. I don't know if the time I put in the compose file is not enough, but for about 5 rounds, okay, I'm trying to, yeah, in case there's an exception, I do an async IO dot sleep, okay, just a manual retry logic. So let me try this one more time and see what happens. All right, looks good. Now let's go to the browser and do some testing. Did I see an error? No, it wasn't an error. So the order service is okay. All right, so yeah, so let's go to our browser. And now I'm going to go to localhost 3000. Okay, and this is the Grafana login. So I'll type admin, okay, admin. These are the defaults. Okay, so it's asking us to change a password. Please, in production, make sure you add a new password because admin, trust me, can be guessed by anybody. So I'll skip. All right, so this is nice. Now, if I go to the Explore tab, I can choose a data source. Okay, I click here. Is this the part? Am I forgetting how to use Grafana? Okay, so I need to go to connections first, then add a new connection, and I'm going to search for Loki. Okay, then I'll click on Loki, says installing. Yeah, and I think we are done. So when I go back to Explore, I should be able at the top to select, is this a data source? I see Grafana. I need to remember how to actually use this. If I go to data sources, okay, connection. Oh, I added a data source, but I added a new connection, but I don't think I had added. Let me see. Okay, click on that. All right, yeah, this is the right thing to do. Yeah, sometimes you can forget. Then for the URL, let me zoom in. The URL, we can use this very one here. Okay. Why is it not accepting the default HTTP? I think, yeah, 2//, then Loki ::3100. No authentication. I think this is okay for now. Then click save and test. Look at that. It says data source successfully connected. Yeah, that's good. Now I think I can now go to the Explore tab. And yeah, this is what I wanted. We can now look at Loki. Nice. Now you're going to watch how debugging is going to be easy. And in this Explore tab, you selected the data source you want. And then using label filters, you can choose a particular container. Okay. Maybe choose the anything, whatever you want. Okay. And hit the run query button to see the logs for a particular service. Okay. So you don't have to mix Postgres logs, no traffic logs. So if you want the inventory service, only inventory service logs will be seen. No logs from Postgres and traffic and you get. And then if an order, like for example, fails, you can search for the word error, okay, across all containers simultaneously. Of course, this is not like a Grafana tutorial, but yeah, just the basic way, like you've seen how to log in, change the default password, add a new connection, add a data source. And now I'm going to show you how to quickly look around for things. So this button here is for run query. So for the labels, I can select container, okay? And the value, I think we have so many. There's Grafana microservices, there's the order service, user service, inventory service, there's the Jagger, Loki, Prompted, RabbitMQ, okay? Anything. So I can choose, for example, for the inventory service, okay? And hit run query, okay? And if you come down here, let me hide this other menu. I think we get logs from only the inventory service. You don't have to get logs from everything. Imagine having to look at everything would be overwhelming. Then when I go up here, for example, I can check if there's an error. I can look for the text error and run. Okay, says no logs available because there's no error. If I hit info and run the query, you see, we get a few of them. I can remove this, okay? And instead of the inventory, look at the database logs. Execute, and there we are, okay? These are the database logs from the database container. I can come here and choose the user service, run query, and those are the logs from the user service. So this is a very, very nice thing. So our observability is now world class. In fact, if there's, for example, maybe a debug level error, you can check for it, or for any text, okay, that you want to find. Maybe let me try to look for this. I say application startup. Okay, then I hit query. You see, we have application startup complete. This is just to show you that you can search for particular text, okay? Even by fields or columns. For example, I can say info, something like that, or service name, etc. Okay, yeah, so yeah, not bad. Okay, and you can see more information about that. And actually for fields, I said typing info here, but that is I think wrong. By field, it meant actually either container, detected level, or service name. Okay, yeah, and what else can you do? Yeah, I want to keep it, I think, simple for now, so that we have something basic. Let me remove this and see all the logs from this service, the order service. And that's nice. Okay. And look at that, connected to RabbitMQ. Nice. Then if you want to have live logs, you can click on this button called live and it will show you all the live logs. Okay. So right now I'll pause and maybe just stop it. Okay. So we have implemented observability in a world-class way. And we have distributed traces to track latency, to see our centralized logs. And yeah, these centralized logs help us to debug crashes. But what if a service gets stuck in a broken loop and needs to be restarted automatically? Think about it. So in day 13, we're going to implement health checks and self-healing. Subscribe and I will see you there.